During this time of uncertainty and difficulties, do we really need to be here to address the challenges of leadership? The answer is yes. We need leaders even more now to lead the way in the new normal. Because leaders are a special breed who rise to the occasion to thrive in the between. The between is an uncharted and unknown space, braved only by the enterprising. It is the hinges of leadership that require much wisdom, skill, and grace to navigate. It is a place of great potential, where the sky is not the limit, but only the beginning. It is the spaces in between where we learn to reframe, recover, and reinvent to rise in this life that we live. So, be prepared and learn from the best to navigate the hinges of leadership to thrive in the between. Welcome to Eagles Leadership Convention 2021.
Hello and welcome back to the Eagles Leadership Conference 2021. You are watching C-Suite Learning Journey 24, Commerce and Services for Good. I'm Wayne Chia and I'm from the Transformational Business Network Asia, and I'm your host and moderator for this panel. Before we even start the panel, we always want to know where are you guys coming from, who's in the audience. So we would like to get you guys to do a very quick opening poll on Menti. Okay, very nice. It seems like very consistently, we always have a sizable contingent from Malaysia. Well, a very huge hello to my fellow countrymen. Yes, this is your fellow Malaysian speaking. And we also have quite a bit of our neighbors dialing in. So we have quite a bit from Indonesia, Singapore, of course, Vietnam. This is quite an interesting segment. So a very warm welcome to all of you guys. I'm sure some of the numbers will continue to pick up. Okay, I just saw Vietnam jumping a little bit. So good. A very warm welcome and hello to all of you. Hope you are staying safe in the midst of the pandemic. I see some folks from Thailand just dialing in. And maybe we can go to the next question to take a look at where are most people coming in from, which sector. Okay, we have about a third coming from corporates, a third coming from startups, 20% coming from nonprofits, and others coming in as well. Very nice. Okay, thank you very much. Maybe we'll come back to the polls in a bit. So a very warm welcome back to you guys again. With me today, I have 4 very inspiring founders from 3 countries in the region. And they will be sharing with us their stories on how they provide commerce solutions and services for good. So with me in the studio right now, we have Michelle Lee from Singapore.
Hi.
Michelle is the founder of I'm Soul Inc., a unique service provider that taps the power of music and technology to give hope, energize and connect people and communities to improve health and happiness. So Michelle, you can wave at the camera and smile.
Hi everyone.
Also with us today, dialing in all the way from Indonesia is Stephanie Seputra. Stephanie is the founder of MyEduSolve, a digital education platform to help Indonesians be more employment ready. Can we have Stephanie on screen, please? There you go. Hi, Stephanie. Good to see you.
How are you? Good to see you.
Yes. All right. We will come back to Stephanie in a bit. Also dialing in from Indonesia, we have Laras Widya Putri. Laras is the founder of Ecodo, a B2B e-procurement platform to support micro SMEs and home-based businesses connecting to the B2B market. Hello there, Laras.
Hello, good day, everyone.
So glad to have you with us.
Sure, such a pleasure.
Last but not least, we have Stevens Chan from Malaysia. Stevens is the founder of Dialogue in the Dark, a novel discovery experience center where it is the blind who are the guide for the seeing. So in the discovery center of Dialogue in the Dark, things are being flipped around. So Stevens, can you wave at us?
Hello.
Hey, so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will jump right straight in. So usually when it comes to social entrepreneurs, the first question we will always ask is why? What inspired them to do what they do? So we will start by hearing the stories of Michelle, Laras, Stephanie, and Stevens to introduce themselves and get them to share their story of why they started their social enterprises. Michelle, let's hear from you.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So I didn't plan to become an entrepreneur in life. It just happened. And now when we look back and connect all the dots, I realize that I am probably in the place where I should be. I am in the place where I should be. So when I was young, my father, being an entrepreneur, worked really hard with my mom to grow the business and didn't really have much time for the children. And I told myself I don't want to be an entrepreneur so that I could have more time for my family. Fast forward, when I graduated, then Dad had 2 months after I came back from my master's, my father had a stroke. And that kind of threw the whole family into chaos. And I was caregiver because my siblings were still overseas. And it really made me understand how challenging it was for young people, even, and my mom, looking after my dad, how emotionally distressed he was and all the feelings that go with it. Then I went to work. And some years later, I had a health scare. And that again made me think about what do I want to do with my life? So for me, then I took leave, I went overseas and I discovered music technology and how powerful it was to enable people. And then I remembered my dad, I remember myself, and I also remembered my personal challenges in life. There was a time when I was on the 16th floor of a building and thought, how long would it take for me to get to the bottom? Obviously, I didn't because I'm here. But all these challenges in life really made me understand the difficulty of being very down, being very stressed, being very distressed. And so I'm Soul Inc. I founded it because I have found a way, I believe, to be able to energize, to help to take away those negative feelings and then be able to get people to be happy and connected, ready to receive, ready to learn. Yeah, have a better life. Health, happiness.
Thank you, Michelle. Now, over to Indonesia. Laras, let's hear your story.
Thanks, Wayne. Good day, everyone. What started me to building Ekodu actually because I grew up with a very good memories of childhood because me, my grandmother, and my mother, we start to build our business from the garage, from the house. My mother and grandmother, they start cooking and selling things to the neighbors. But actually, their business didn't grow up further, even though it already takes like 15 years. And when I was in the college, I had opportunity to go to Yogyakarta, Bali, as you know, the center of arts and crafts in Indonesia. But what happened there in Bali and Yogyakarta, the micro SMEs also didn't grow their business further because they don't have access to the digital market with only like under $1 daily sales. The situation's kind of different when I had opportunity to visit India, Dharavi, the place of a slumdog billionaire scene. So Dharavi is the biggest landfill in India. The people that live there, actually, they're working together, produce things, goods, and they could export the goods to the global countries through e-commerce. That's kind of the movement that I think started to push me to duplicate it to Indonesia, where the micro SMEs could have access to B2B market and also have similar opportunity to access microfinance and even have access to the mentor to leverage their business further.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Laras. Now let's hop over to Stephanie to share her story And I believe Stephanie actually has a presentation to go along with her sharing. So maybe we can pull that up as well. Over to you, Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie, while waiting for the slides to come on, maybe you can just share your story as we go along as well. I'm sure the slides will come on very soon.
Sure. Sounds good. So I guess a little bit about myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie, and I grew up being a star student, but not the typical star student that you'd expect. I'm actually a student at risk. So each year, my teachers will review and see whether I would still be good enough to pass on to the next grade or not. And I think the biggest reason why I'm an entrepreneur today is because there were people who had believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. And having said that, the kind of business that we're in, we want to be able to give that same belief and that same hope to the people that we're working with. And that's why my EduSolve is founded, to solve the problem of youth unemployment and give hope to those who need someone else to believe in them first. And I think that's a little bit about my story and a little bit about why we do what we're doing. But in terms of how things are going right now, it seems like in the beginning, we started the business because we know what we had wanted to do. But little by little, we realized that we really don't know what we're doing. But I think one thing that is clear for sure is that at the end of the day, what we need to do is to love the problem, not just the solutions. And by loving the problem and understanding why we want to do the things that we're doing and why is it a problem that is worth solving, we can get closer to where we want to be. And I think to close, I would just like to share a quote that I heard from my previous boss from Charity Water. And he mentioned that at the end of the day, our job is to run ourselves out of business. And when we are able to do that, it means that we have solved the problem and that we have created something that is meaningful. And yeah, I guess that's a little bit about myself and a little bit about my social entrepreneurship journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Last but not least, let's head over to Malaysia, where we have Stevens share a bit of his story. At the same time, can we prepare the video for Stevens? All right, Stevens, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Wayne. Good afternoon. I started my working career in the bank before venturing out to do my own direct marketing consulting firm until I lost my eyesight. I became blind due to glaucoma at the age of 45. That's where I have to close all my business down, and with that, a loss of income, loss of my dignity came also the loss of hope. But thank God for His strength, grace, and mercies, and coupled with the support and love from my wife, I slowly but surely came back out to answer this new calling in my life. I started an NGO called the Malaysian Glaucoma Society back in 2009, just a year after I lost my eyesight. And through the NGO, we began to serve other glaucoma patients and their family members. And a year later, I also became a social activist, advocating for the access equalities for not just the blind, but all the other disabled communities in our nation, Malaysia. When I started the guide dogs for the blind movement back then. Being an entrepreneur myself, I was not actually quite used to the idea of begging for donations and grants to sustain our community work. So I wanted to start something, and that's where, thank God, I found Dialogue in the Dark from Germany. And thankfully, they agreed to be our partner here in Malaysia. And that's where, for the last 9 years, we have been earning our own revenues, not 100% yet, but we're getting there. Basically running the dialogue in the Discovery Center there as a means of earning our own revenues through paid tours, learning tours, education tours, corporate workshops, and all that. It's a reversal of those experience because it not only helps us sustain, but it helps us to drive the message of empathy, of inclusion, despite the differences and diversities. And yeah, that's in a nutshell my social enterprise journey. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Stevens. And I believe Stevens actually has an introduction video as well. Can we have that up, please?
I never thought I would be blind one day. But when I lost all my eyesight, it's like the end of the world for me. You know, some people ask me, how is it like to be blind? I often tell them it's like doing a bungee jump, but it doesn't stop. So how do you climb back up is a choice. I guess for me it was fate. The second thing is, your choice is, do you want to be a burden or do you want to be a blessing? My family, my wife, my friends, they were all very concerned about me. So I can continue to be a burden to them, you know, or I can be a blessing to them despite the adversities. My name is Stevens Chan, age 57. I used to be a very busy entrepreneur until I lost my eyesight at the age of 45 in 2007. Since 2009, we started off with the Malaysia Glaucoma Society as I wanted to create more awareness about glaucoma, the very disorder that caused my blindness. And throughout that journey, we came across this social enterprise called Dialogue in the Dark from Germany. And after getting the support from a philanthropist, we brought back this experience from Germany in 2012.
Okay, and my name is Shafiri, and today I bring you Cuti Malaysia. Are you ready? Yes, great. Let's go. Follow my voice over here. Find the tactile on the floor. Very good. You can follow the tactile. So anything that you can hear. Birds. So enjoy the nature. So you think where we are right now? Alright. Let me try the hanging bridge. No. So today I bring you to go through the bridge. Find the handle on your left and right. Okay, carefully. Follow my voice over here. Continue the journey. So let's go shopping. Okay, walk straight. Something on your right. Okay, hello, hi, good. I bring same friends here. Okay, you can touch. My name is on your right. Everybody now, you walk straight and follow my voice over here. And I bring you to see the most important thing on your life. So how is it? Fine. Okay, what about you, Bill?
A special experience.
Special experience. What else?
Get to learn how the blind walks.
Get to learn how the blind walks. That's it. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Many people, when
All right. We'll continue on with Stephen's story in a little bit, but I think just want to highlight something from the stories that Michelle, Stevens, Laras, and Stephanie has shared. If you actually notice, all of them were inspired to start their social enterprises because of personal experience, circumstances, and adversities, be it family members, be it health. In Stephen's case, he lost his eyesight, be it struggling with school, So these are all very personal experiences, personal, I would say pain even, that actually drove them to go beyond their personal pain and to rise up to the occasion and to be able to help others in the same situation. So this, just their personal stories alone, it already gives us a lot to be inspired about and to learn from. So with that, we will now invite all of you to go back to Menti, and if you haven't already, to answer the question on what is the biggest impact our entrepreneur story have on you as you listen to them. All right, seems like we already have a couple here. Resilience in the face of adversity, yes, definitely. Stephanie's loving your problems, especially many would conveniently walk away and hope someone will solve it for you. Reinvent solution. That's another good one. All right, let's see if we have a few more responses. We have fight a good fight. Yes, I agree. Our entrepreneurs here are definitely all fighters. Okay, I'm sure more responses will be flowing in. In fact, we will come back to this question again after the next segment. So now let's move on to hear about how our entrepreneurs actually help their beneficiaries through their organizations. Okay, so we will start with Stevens this time. Stevens, would you like to comment on how Dialogue in the Dark actually impacts its beneficiaries?
Yeah. Well, in a nutshell, almost all the disabled people, the blind, they live in isolation and they face unequal access to education and economic opportunities to be financially independent. That's the land space. But that shouldn't be the land space. As proven by Dialogue globally, even now in Malaysia, we are using Dialogue to retrain and focus on what they have, their strengths. Yeah, I often tell them we already don't have eyesight, but don't let that rob away your other capabilities, your dignity. And so that's what we do. We have trained and impacted more than 100 over of them, not just the blind, but also the lame and the autistic youths and adults the last 8 years. And we have also adopted more than 200 over students. These special students are still studying in special schools. That's what we do through Dialogue. We increase their self-esteem to tell them how wonderful, gifted they are, and how they could motivate, inspire the people out there that they are resilient and they are just like them. It's just that they can't see, but that shouldn't stop them from living the life they want to live. It's what we do. And through that interaction, our team, after graduation, which is usually between 6 to a year, depending on their abilities, they are then transferred to other job opportunities with our partners, or they will run their own micro business. And some of them have actually gone back to studies, hoping to earn a degree. Yeah, and that's what we've been doing with this community.
Thank you, Stevens. Now, can we just resume the rest of Stevens' video, please?
They come and experience Dialogue in the Dark. They appreciate, especially their eyesight and those around them who are less able than them. At the same time, through Dialogue in the Dark, we also are able to sustain our community works, our social works, because through Dialogue, we run tours, we run events, we even run corporate training program. And from the profits that we earn from these business activities, we plow it back into our academy to empower and educate even more disabled youths and children. When I was doing my social work with the Glaucoma Society, I've got a couple of children who is under our care. They are born with glaucoma. And I often look at them and just wonder what kind of future lies ahead for them with lack of accessibility, education. What they need is opportunities. What they need is acceptance by the public, by the society, that they can also be a capable human being. So that's my motivation.
So that was a really inspiring story from Stevens. Now, back to the studio. Over to you, Michelle.
Right.
We would like to hear from you how I'm So Inc. impacts its beneficiaries with this unique technology that you have with music, whereby you can actually make music even though you're disabled. Over to you.
Right. I think, will I have my slides here?
Yes. Can we load up Michelle's slides, please?
Actually, before the slides come up. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah. So really, I'm So Inc. We use music, but we are not a music studio. Our aim is actually not to produce musicians. Or get you sort of to be able to perform. The idea is actually about giving hope, nourishing the soul. That's where I learned from my personal experience. When my father was disabled, had a stroke and half paralyzed, it was not his physical disability that prevented him from learning. It was actually the fact that he gave up. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. Yeah, so when we talk about eradicating poverty, we're really talking about like the poverty of the mind. The fact that when we are poor in well-being, we actually find people who are slumped over, people who have no energy, people who are sad, locked up, there's no purpose in life. And if you want to create jobs for them, you actually have to first spark that energy and motivation and give them that hope in order for them to say, okay, I'll do something, I'll change. Just like my dad. Like if I had what I have now, maybe my father will still be with me. Yeah. So for me, therefore, at I'm So Inc., what we're trying to do is to use music and to be able to use technology. And the reason is that, may I have the next slide? The reason is that we can actually change all these negative emotions through the work we do and the service that we provide. Not yet.
Previous slide.
Previous slide. To be able to bring the positive emotions and all that, that would actually be the fundamental piece before you can actually then grow. And the next one. So the mission is to be able to enable all to make music for health and happiness. And the reason, we didn't just come up with music, listening to music. If the next slide will come up. So what we innovated was actually this service that is a booster shot. We don't just give you listening to music, because the neuroscience shows that if you make music, you actually get a powerful, magnified dose of music. And if we use the technology, it is technology that enables people to just move, even if you can only move a little finger or head, to be able to play beautiful music instantly as that spark. And so that is how we give access to all. And of course, the other thing that we do is to be able to give across generations, across abilities, inclusive communities. When we combine all this into one program that we have created, over the last 8 years, our impact to the beneficiaries have been like We see people suddenly moving after sort of slumping over for 8 years. We see people being able to do things. We have therapists telling us, we have never seen this patient raise their hand so far. It's been working with a whole load of people, a range of people from young to old, from able to disabled, with dementia, Parkinson's, and all kinds of illness. And they sort of like, they have given up hope. They're shut down. We have given that spark. From there, they're able to then get well. So I think that is, I'll stop there for now.
Okay.
There will be more slides. So maybe one last slide is just.
Can we show the last
one
slide,
last
please?
slide? Yes, we basically awaken lives through the work that we do.
Yep. So what Michelle didn't put up here are the videos of how the beneficiaries actually interact with the equipment to make music. Is actually pretty amazing. And Michelle, I understand that our audience can actually check out those videos when they visit the virtual booth.
Yeah, because there are
correct?
all the booths, because we do so much with the community, with families, and also with individuals, that if I were to play the videos, you'll probably take up too much,
too much
of other people's, everyone else's time.
Yeah, I do encourage you guys to check out the
please
virtual
do.
booth, because when you watch the videos, trust me, you'll be really amazed. Like, how is it that a blind lady or someone who's physically disabled can make music and actually enjoy the process of music making? And that's exactly what I'm So Ing does.
Yes, and thank you. And it's also actually the connection between the caregiver and the person who's doing it, that we spark that bonding. And so for therapists, we're giving them an opportunity to find new ways to engage their patients. For the family, your daughter or son, it is a new way to engage your parent.
Got it.
It's that community that we are building.
Okay, so do check out the videos. Okay,
thank you.
Now, over to Laras, over at Jakarta. Laras, we would like to hear from you. What's your story of how EcoDo actually helps its beneficiaries?
Thank you, Wayne. So maybe I can share you one story of EcoDo about one of our micro SMEs. Her name is Ibu Endang. Back to 2018, before Bu Endang joined EcoDo, her business almost went bankrupt because, as you know, she needs to open the store in the local shop, and often the rent price went higher annually. But there's no order coming in because she need to wait the customers to come to their store. And because he doesn't have any cash again, she tried to close the expensive store, moving into the small house in hopes that she could start the business again with only like one sewing machine, so she could have a decent income for her family. And then EcoDo come to meet her. We try to educate Ibu Endang to go digital through our applications and website. And she become happy because even from home, she could access like millions inquiries only through their smartphone. And not only that, after she could have a deal from big companies, big brands, we also could connect her to the project financing, to the microfinance to finance the project. And currently, thousands of micro SMEs like Bu Endang able to increase their revenues from 50% up to 600%. And after that, the other problem comes up because when the inquiries become higher, they need also to increase their production capacity and also increasing their products quality. That's why our profit goes back to the incubation program. So the micro SMEs, even though they start small, they also could access to the mentorship, so they could leverage their business. And maybe to make sure you could understand how Bu Endang and how other micro SMEs in EcoDo, how we could work together. Maybe I could share a little bit of EcoDo video here.
Okay, can we have the video of Ibu Endang up, please?
Cerita ini dimulai ketika saya baru mulai usaha tahun 2009. Awalnya kami usaha dengan membuka toko seperti biasa. Ya, namanya toko kecil, jangkauan yang kami miliki juga terbatas. Saya mencoba membuat desain ala kadarnya. Yang penting kan desainnya banyak dan menarik. Badai menghantam bisnis kami. Sebulan sudah laci kami kosong, tidak berpenghuni. Tahun 2013 menjadi tahun terberat bagi kami. Alhamdulillah tahun 2018 kami dikenalkan dengan Ekodu. Ekodu menjadi hadiah bagi kami setelah kami tidak sanggup lagi membuka toko souvenir karena sepi orderan. Saya dibantu marketing, desain hingga kemudahan pinjaman modal bahan baku, serta modal kerja. Sehingga order besar bisa kami dapatkan kembali. Kami dibanjiri orderan tas dalam jumlah besar, ribuan hingga puluhan ribu. Dan saat ini kami sudah punya 4 karyawan tetap. Dan usaha kami semakin lancar dan terbantu. Akhirnya omset kami pun naik hingga 50% dari tahun ke tahun. Terima kasih Ekodu. Semoga bisa tetap maju. Teruslah jadi hadiah yang menopang seperti keluarga bagi kami dan masyarakat.
Di Ekodu, kami percaya bahwa ekonomi gotong royong adalah masa depan ekonomi Indonesia. Kami mengantarkan kebahagiaan melalui souvenir. Kebahagiaan itu dibuat secara khusus oleh para kreator pengrajin di seluruh Indonesia.
Wow, that's a great story right there. Laras, just a quick one, just to make sure that our audience actually know, what does a typical MSME look like? I mean, just to make sure that everyone knows how you define micro SMEs.
Sure, Wayne. I think that SMEs in Singapore are kind of different of SMEs in Indonesia, because in Indonesia, even just a husband and the wives working together from their small house, they are selling the produce, the bags and goods together. It can be called like micro SMEs or home-based businesses. And can you imagine like when you take a walk in the Greater Jakarta area, in the alley, there are small houses together, working together. One village could produce one products together from the orders from the big brands, big companies. And what's important in here, because even though with very limited area, they could produce a standardized for global brands. And it's become the goal for us to make sure that even the small-based businesses, home-based businesses could have similar opportunity to source, to sell something to the B2B market, the big brands that maybe we already know popularly every day. So that's kind of micro SMEs in Indonesia.
Okay, so it's very much like a micro SMEs can be as small as a husband and wife team or mother and child team, completely home-based. And the genius of the Ecodo platform, for those of you who still may not be aware, if anyone were to ask me, what is the Ecodo platform like? I would say it's almost like an Alibaba for suppliers based out of Indonesia, with the exception that they can actually crowdsource it into multiple suppliers. So if a big company comes in and say, I want 20,000 pieces of the same souvenir, now there's no way a small home-based business can do it because they cannot deliver that quantity. But the Ecodo platform allows them to crowdsource towards, imagine 10 or 20 or even 50 of such home-based enterprises, and all being able to produce the same quality product with consistency. And that's what makes Ecodo very unique. So do check out Ecodo, because you'll be really impressed with what they offer and the value they create to the beneficiaries. All right, up next we have Stephanie. Now, Stephanie, we would like to hear from you as well. What makes MyEduSolve special, and how do you solve the youth literacy problem in Indonesia?
Sure thing. So I think the first thing when we're hiring someone, the first thing that we would see is probably their resumes or their CVs. And on here, you would see when under proficiencies, people would write, "Oh, I'm proficient in A, B, C, D," and most of the time it would be based off of what they think are they proficient in. And you would see this graphs, and it would say, "Oh, 80% or 90% or however many percent." And I think from us, what makes us different is we're actually standardizing the skills and the knowledge that these people actually have through certifications in collaboration with companies like Microsoft, Adobe, and Project Management Institute. Second, we also believe in not reinventing the wheel. And so we work together with the current ecosystem, such as SMKs, higher education, corporates, and all of these other people to provide this solution. And last but not least, we also give them a platform to showcase their work and also give them opportunities for better work and to explore further. In recent times, we also realized that hard skills is not the only thing that is important. And so we are also providing complementary coaching so that people can work on their LinkedIns and actually work on their, things like problem solving, leadership, and also goal setting as well.
Okay, so let's say I'm a youth, Indonesian youth. What do I expect to see on the MyEduSolve platform, and how does the process look like?
So it really depends. I think, let's say a typical kid who is a designer, we host design challenges every month. And for the winners, we will give them the chance to get certified with Adobe. And after that, their works will be highlighted in the website and also on our social media. And it will give them the opportunity to connect with other people who might want to hire them. Also, at the same time, you can take the certifications programs at any time, whenever you'd like to. And we also work together directly with schools to provide this together with the curriculum that they already have. So I guess there's multiple ways to be connected to what we are doing.
Wow, so it's quite end-to-end then, right? You start from some I think I kind of heard soft skills, then after that you go into some hard skills, and then vocational, professional training, and then eventually at some point in time, maybe even matchmaking with some potential employers.
Yes, correct.
Amazing. And I believe that Stephanie also has a video to show us, to tell us a little bit more about what MyEduSolve is all about. Can we have the video up, please?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Saputra, the COO and founder of MyEduSolve. MyEduSolve aims to transform Indonesia's workforce through digital literacy. We developed MyEduSolve because we felt that in order for us to reach our potential as a country, we need to first focus on capacity building and empowering Indonesians through digital literacy. We specialize in providing education solutions to SMK, higher education, and young professionals. We believe that by focusing on capacity building, we can realize Indonesia's potential as a country. We also believe that this will ultimately bring economic prosperity for more and more Indonesians. There were a lot of things that we were unsure about, and we needed guidance from experts. And GK Plug and Play was highly recommended by a lot of friends. I'm also a big fan of a few of the startups that went through the program, such as Sayurbox, 8 Villages, and Assembler. Being a part of the GK Plug and Play Indonesia program has been a pivotal moment in our startup journey. It helped us recenter and realign our focus, and it pushed us to think and do better. MyEduSolve, get certified, be qualified.
Okay, that's a great one. And Stephanie, just as an add-on question, could you tell us a little bit more about MyEduSolve X? Because I understand that they are two different platforms.
Sure. So throughout the pandemic, we actually, before the pandemic, we were 100% operating offline. And afterwards, obviously, there's a new ways of doing business. And we decided to set up a new learning management system platform that is called MyEduSolve X. And through this platform, we work together with Indonesian companies and also Indonesian professionals to provide industry courses that will be relevant for people specifically in this time when you want to upscale. So some of the classes that we offer on there are more specific. So things like Excel, but specifically for, let's say, micro SMEs, or let's say Excel specifically for finances and things like that.
Okay, now we'll talk more about the pandemic stuff, because that is the exciting part, the climax of some of the discussion. So we'll leave that in a bit. So great. Now we are right at the point where we are about to take a short break. But before that, I thought it would be great for us to go back to Mentimeter and again come back to the same question we asked just now, which is, now that you've heard from the panelists on the story that inspired them to set up their own social enterprises and how their social enterprises benefits the different beneficiaries and impact them. What are your thoughts on what's the impact on you when they share their stories? Now let's go back to Mentimeter, okay? And if our audience have any new inspiration, we would like to hear and get you to continue giving your inputs. Okay, no worries. I'm sure there'll be more responses rolling in a bit. Okay, I think now we are just about in time for a quick 5 minutes break. And when we come back, we will be hearing more exciting stories about the challenges that our panelists face during the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, welcome back. We hope you had a good break. You have refreshed yourself for the next segment. So the theme of the conference is Reframe, Recover, and Reinvent. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has hit businesses across the board, but especially so for social enterprises that are providing very high-touch support to beneficiaries. Because when you cut away contact, it actually just cripples the operations of the social enterprises. So now we want to hear from our social enterprises, our entrepreneurs, what did they do to overcome this crisis during this period in their businesses? So maybe we start with Laras. Laras, we would like to hear from you. What did you do during this COVID-19 pandemic to help you overcome the crisis for your business and your beneficiaries?
Well, one sad story, Wayne. The very first COVID case in Indonesia transmitted in our office building last year.
The first case transmitted in your office.
The very first case. It's really hard.
Okay, I think I'm not sure whether the virus also went into the transmission, but okay, we are just at the climax. It's okay. Now maybe back to the studio for a bit. We'll be back to Laras. Back to the studio, Michelle. Let's hear from your story. Like, how did COVID-19 affect your business, your beneficiaries, and what did you do to pivot?
Yeah, I think you're right. Our business was so high touch. You know, we're like looking at issues like loneliness, isolation. And it's not just this kind of issue only for developing countries, but it's also for people who are in the affluent, who are in affluent countries. Every one of us face this problem, and it's affecting productivity, family, quality of life. So our programs are really high touch because we want to build that human connection. That's the spark. When COVID came, everything just shut down. It was truly hard because as people, we draw a lot of energy from seeing others, touching, and then seeing them come to life, come to being well. People who are very disabled and yet they can produce beautiful music, the smile on their faces. We couldn't see that. We then tried to move online, but there was just something missing. And so for months during lockdown, we were actually in the dark. And we felt the depression, the very problem that we are trying to solve actually hit our own team.
Oh dear.
Yes, it hit our own team as well. So we really have to also dig deep and say, how are we going to overcome this? And while we are waiting for the market to reopen, and it reopens and closes and reopens and closes, it was like, it hits you deeper and deeper and deeper. But that is where I think as social entrepreneurs, our resilience has to come through. And this is the very spirit that we are trying to teach or impact or pass on to other people through our programs. And sometimes when words fail, the music speaks, right? So we have now, I believe, found a way where the market is half open, where we can offer blended experiences, both online and a bit offline, so that we could combine. The other way that we pivoted and reframed was that we used to work mostly with institutions and go into places where we would like work with 20, 30, 40, even 50, 100 people. We couldn't do that anymore. So we said, where are now these lonely, isolated people? They are actually inside the homes. And actually, interestingly, that's where my father was, isn't it? Right at home. So now we've started, our therapists and our trainers are going into homes. And so from a B2B kind of market, we completely, well, we're still doing the B2B because some of the daycare centers are all now opening, but we had to really also look at our business in terms of going to the mass market. And the interesting thing is, isn't that our mission to democratize access to all? So it's like so funny, the COVID brought us down, but it also brought us back to our mission and how we then went back, got ourselves up, thought about what is it that we really wanted to do, and then reinvented ourselves to be able to deliver actually exactly what we said we would do as AmSoWave.
Wow, that's beautiful. The COVID-19 pandemic actually brought you closer to your original mission and vision. So how's that working out for you right now?
Well, actually, just on our birthday, 8th birthday, so AmSoWave has been around for 8 years. And on the 8th birthday, on 5th September, we launched our 5+1 family campaign, Happy Family campaign.
Oh, what's that about?
So we basically said that we tested it out at the beginning of the year, and we went out to some families and we got great feedback. So we launched this campaign and we said, for every 5 families who would engage our services, and they usually have an elderly at home. It's a caregiver who is writing into us and said, my mom has dementia, my mom had a stroke, there is depression, there is this. And we all go out to work. She is left alone or with the helper or just one of us. How can we then go to the family and make music with the family? And that for every 5 families that we serve, we would serve then 1 family who cannot afford our services free of charge. And that's our social mission. So we get out into the families, 5 families, they can't come out, the elderly and all can't come out. The caregivers, it's too difficult. We go to you, and then for every 5 families, we would serve 1 family free of charge.
Wow, that's amazing. So you are already bringing music to the people who cannot physically do it. And then for every 5 families who actually engage this service, you will bless another family who cannot afford this technology and convenience.
And one more thing, then we told them, you pay us what you think we are worth. Because it's so unique, our service. We didn't want to peg it to like, we're not just a home nurse or we're not a therapist. We actually bring a very unique service to you. So we've tested the market, we go out there and we say, you pay us what we think we're worth. And then part of that fee that you pay us will also contribute to this 5th family that we are going to serve.
And have you had any interesting surprises or insights from this pay what you think we are worth exercise?
Well, actually, it was inspired. It was an inspiration from when I read about this restaurant. I believe that they offer meals to people and say, you pay whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you pay for the next person, and everybody thinks, oh, they'll pay you very little. And they'll. But actually, they found out that many people went above and beyond. So I believe in the face of humans. I believe that if we tell them, this is what we're going to do, and we are a social enterprise, we need to get you to pay a fee because we're not a charity. You have a good service. You're going to make your mom and dad happy. You're going to, all our family is going to be happy. Now, pay us what you think we're worth and pay us to do more for those who cannot afford it. I think that is really like, the COVID has sort of like really brought us around. We've thought of a way now to reach out. We've actually just launched it, and we're very excited because we just launched it immediately. People signed up, and I'm going to have we're going to have our first client next week.
Absolutely amazing. I have to say, that's probably one of the most daring things that people that I've seen businesses do. Pay what you think we are worth, right? Very daring. And if you are talking about reinvention, that's reinvention right there. So, Michelle, we hope that we hope to hear more about the progress of this campaign, because it
Yes.
definitely sounds very exciting.
It is. And also we would then like, if there are people out there who actually want to sponsor families to do this, that's when we can truly go out in a huge way.
Okay, so for those of you watching this, this is a very open invitation. If you want to bless some families out there, this is one way to do it. Yeah. Okay, Laras, I understand you're back, right?
Finally, sorry.
We were wondering whether the virus actually got into the transmission, but no worries. It's good to see you and hear you again. So you were just about to get started to say that the very first COVID-19 case in Indonesia was transmitted in the Ecodo office, the building, I mean.
Yeah, Wayne. At that moment, we start to make it as opportunity for us to adapt earlier. That's why we collaborate with the micro SMEs. We invite them to talk and then socialize for them as well, because they need to understand that maybe this pandemic will be happening in like 1 year, 2 years, or we don't know when it will be ended. That's why we need to innovate to have a change to our business model, to our product lines. And then we also got advice from Ibu Virginia Tan from Teja Ventures that Ecodo need to focus on our strength, which is procurement services to help the government, to help the corporates sourcing goods and healthcare package with the standardized hygiene services. That's why we try to communicate with the local government. So we conduct training and education to the micro SMEs so they could produce standardized PPE, face masks, and also have access to the microfinance. We also collaborate. Finally, we execute our new business model as well, additional business model to connect them to the microfinance from NGOs, local and international institutions, so they could have a budget to keep innovating new product lines, and then also executing their marketing budget, so they still have decent income. And what's good from that story, actually one story from our micro SMEs named Fat from Bandung. So before pandemic, he only have 20 ibus working from his house, and because pandemic, he able to produce PPE through the firefighter agency, and now he just have opportunity to handle around 200 machines and ibus from his news investors. So it becomes our turning point as well, to really make sure that micro SMEs, even though we are small, we could encourage them to move, to innovate, and then to adapt in this new normal, and also keep innovating to diverse our products and services align with the industry and clients' need. So thanks God that because of that, because of the innovation from the micro SMEs as well, they could still have decent income and survive in this pandemic.
Interesting. So the very fact that the first COVID-19 case happened in your building make the whole thing even more real to the Ecodo team. And as a result of that, you actually got the micro SMEs to be trained on safety standards, went into production of PPEs. And so that's one very huge difference that you made to in terms of pivoting for the beneficiaries. But what about Ecodo? I mean, I kind of heard microfinance, I kind of heard product innovation. What were some of the things that you guys did as a company that helped you, that you repivoted or reinvented during the pandemic itself?
For our company, the very first is to, moving from the product lines. Before pandemic, we only focus in providing corporate gifting for big companies. But because pandemic, we start to, educating our micro SMEs to produce PPE, healthcare, and safety. And we also trying to figure out other opportunity for the micro SMEs that it ended to be, our new business model, because before pandemic, when the B2B clients would like to purchase from micro SMEs, somehow they will pay after the products delivered, and it's very hard for micro SMEs to start producing because they don't have enough cash. That's why before pandemic, it's Ecodu who fulfill to pay the micro SMEs first. But then we come up with the idea to bridge with the microfinance partner to bridge this to the micro SMEs, and it also become opportunity for us to look for future collaboration with other big companies, like providing affordable internet package to the micro SMEs supported by our investors as well. And it also help us to rethinking about how we could have similar vision with the team member who couldn't meet each other in offline, and it also give us opportunity to even hire team members outside of Java Island, and giving opportunity for the local employee to also take part in this opportunity, and then to engage more with the community outside Java Island, because as you know that Indonesia is still Java centrist, and then we still have more millions micro SMEs out of Java that also impacted by this pandemic.
That's really interesting. So you actually pivoted as a company from the from the corporate gifts product line to the PPE and a safety and healthcare product line. And I believe that there was a lot of high demand on that. And as a result of that, the MSMEs actually need working capital to produce some of this, to buy raw material. And out of necessity, you develop a microfinance product line so that you can help the MSMEs finance the initial production costs. And you also help provide internet access for them, and not just for the MSMEs, but it sounds like that also had some changes to the way you rethink hiring and recruitment, and you started hiring outside of the Java Island, and that is probably the start for more regional expansion for Ecodo, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
Very good, very inspiring, Laras. Maybe we head over to Stevens, and just to hear Stevens' story on how he actually pivoted Dialogue in the Dark during this time of the pandemic, and what were some of the things he did at the business level and also helping his beneficiaries. Over to you, Stevens.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Yeah, miss COVID. That's how I'm addressing COVID now. It closes down dialogue, not only in Malaysia, but globally, all our partners, including Singapore. We were all locked down. Since in Malaysia, it was since the first lockdown. That was in March 2020. No, 2020. And yeah, I didn't know what to do then, because you can't replicate that experience online. Yeah, it's so experiential. So, but we thank God, because he seems to have prepared us in advance, because prior to COVID, our team members have been trained to prepare food, because we had events, corporate events like dinner in the dark, birthday parties in the dark, and sometimes corporates who come for workshops, food catering. So the team were preparing the food, and some of them were even trained to do barista work. And so that came in handy, and I quickly pivoted, and I call that the dialogue out of the dark campaign. And so we started, thanks to support from partners like Grab and Magic and also Hasana. We started our cloud kitchen concept shop back late 2020. That's what we've been doing. So right now, our cloud kitchen has been very active in doing food aid programs. We got some sponsorship from corporates who buys the food prepared by our team, and that will then be sent out to the needy out there in the market. So it's like killing two birds with one stone. So I think I have a very short video to share about that pivot.
Okay. I'm not sure if we actually have that optional video there.
Okay.
I'll let the video team see if it's actually there. But what I do hear from you, Stevens, is that you actually moved from, because Dialogue in the Dark already had the skill set to be able to do food prep, right?
Yeah.
And then you leverage on that existing skill set and really moved, big on it into the cloud kitchen concept. Is there a cafe, or is it just purely a cloud kitchen, meaning like a central kitchen backend?
It is a central kitchen, which looking at the support we're getting, that we are even, because we don't know when we can reopen again. So now we are looking of training even more of our team members to operate their own cloud kitchen somewhere around in the Klang Valley. So that's what we want to do until it's safe for all to come out and work, learn, and play again, and we can reopen our Dialogue Discovery Center again. So until then, we are making groundwork to set up even more cloud kitchen, to keep the team busy, to find ways to sustain, to ride over this storm.
Understood. So this cloud kitchen that you have set up, as you mentioned, is it only open to corporates, or the?
No, it's open to everybody, all the public. The corporates comes in to buy the food from us, which will then be sent out to the needy.
Okay, so in other words, if I'm in Malaysia right now, I can actually order food from your from your cloud kitchen, say via Grab Food or Food Panda. What other platforms can I order from?
Currently, it's only Grab, because we have a special arrangement with Grab, who has been very supportive of our campaign. So currently, at this point of time, is only through Grab.
Which is already quite a bit, because Grab has a lot of footprint. And so for you audience out there who's dialing in from Malaysia, do check out the food that's available on Grab by the Includes.
Cafe Includes.
Cafe Includes. And the beauty of what Cafe Includes offer is that corporates can also order the food and to ship them for the needy. So it is indeed food prepared by the disabled for the disabled. That is such a powerful message. I think we may not have the video already preloaded up, but no worries. If you can just get someone to post the link. I understand that it's actually available on YouTube. I remember seeing the YouTube link somewhere. So Includes Cafe. What would be the title of the video? If someone can just post it on the chat, that would be great. Anyways, it's all up on the internet. I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it. I've seen the video. It's a very inspiring one on how Dialogue in the Dark actually pivoted to do the cloud kitchen. So thank you so much for sharing, Stevens.
Thank you, Wayne.
Last but not least, Stephanie, I know you kind of gave us a bit of a prelude just now of what MyEduSoft have done during the COVID-19. So if that was the teaser, now let's go for the full movie. Over to you, Stephanie.
Sure. So actually, I'm sure everybody else feels the same way too, but when the pandemic first hits, it feels like if you're in a Tekken video game there's like a lot of combo moves and you only have this much life left and you don't know what to do with it. And I think we were also at that point where I think the first thing that happened that really shocked us was we had our cash flow guaranteed for up to the end of the year because of a couple of projects here and there. And suddenly the pandemic happens and all of those contracts were canceled. And so was our cash flow. And that was really, really hard because then we had to think about how are we going to do this now?
Yeah, contracts, they will just have to execute the force majeure clause and they can get it, right? Now, I honestly wonder how many of these are really in that situation, but it's just to do. Sorry, but
yeah, it's true. But it also forces us to think about, how can we make the things that we are providing, how can we highlight the value of the things that we're providing even more? Because it's clear that when the pandemic hits, it's the first thing that a lot of the companies cut or a lot of the schools cut right away. Like, we don't need this anymore suddenly. And so that, I think, allowed us to reframe a little bit and understand, okay, so maybe we're not providing as much value as we thought we had been. And so how can we further, create those values? And that's when we decided to start developing a few more products, a few more services, and focus on honing on what we really do best, which is training, and also the certification aspect as well. And also we've had this whole plan, right? Like, okay, so we're going to be in Jakarta for maybe 3 to 5 years, and then after that slowly expand into Java, and then after that slowly expand into the other cities all over Indonesia. And suddenly we have the opportunity to expand right away because of the pandemic. Because instead of having to invest so much in infrastructures and in people all over Indonesia, we can just make do with what we have right now. And we can host our classes through Zoom, and we can invest and we can create technologies that will allow for that accessibility to happen today. And I think through that, after we reframe a little bit about how, I don't know how to phrase this into words, but all of these things that happen, it can either be an opportunity or it can be something that brings you down. And I think we've just chosen to treat it as an opportunity, and that allowed us to recover. At the same time, I think what Laras was mentioning as well, now we have access to talents from all over Indonesia, has been really, really amazing as well, because we don't have to fight with unicorn companies that can pay people an exorbitant amount of money. And we can just choose people who wants to work on the problem that we are solving right now. And that allowed us to get the best team and allowed us to bring, and allowed us to solidify our culture as a company and our values and the things that are important to us. So I think in hindsight, this pandemic really allowed us to, find out, to discover who we really are and what does that mean, and allow us to work on the problems that we love.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bit of a common theme here in terms of rediscovering what is your true value that you bring to the market. Just curious, Stephanie, for those guys those major companies that canceled the contract on you, what were you supposed to deliver for them back then?
So it was training and certifications program. So a lot of companies will have a learning and development division. And so those were what we were doing together with them. Oh, and some of the other ones as well.
Offline training, physical training. That means
Correct.
You go to their office, you provide training. I give you, I don't know, your team of 20 people, give you proper Adobe Cloud, Creative Cloud training, that kind of training.
Correct.
Okay, and because of the pandemic, you turned the whole thing around and made it virtual.
Correct.
Okay, very interesting. And you kind of mentioned a little bit about MyEdusoft just now. I understand that MyEdusoft X was also born as a result of the pandemic, right?
Correct, yes. And I think that was also the other big things that we learned throughout this time. So before, we were really bad with data capturing and understanding the learning process from people. So the only data points that we got was just pre and post surveys, where we can see the impact of the classes, where we can see what are they actually learning and what does that actually translate to their daily lives. But then now, because we now have a platform, we can also track things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to. So things like, so let's say in a 6-hour class, how long does it actually take for people to finish it? And is there a critical point? So for instance, one of the things that we found out that was interesting was like, if they don't log in or open their class after 4 days, the chances are they're not going to be able to finish the class. And so those time is really critical for us to follow up with them, whether it's through email or whether it's through WhatsApp or whatever other channels that we have. And that allowed us to understand our learners a little bit more and allowed us to understand how can we support them. Also, the other things that we capture are, of course, like one of the most shocking thing that we found out was this. We sold the class for like $5 Singaporean or something like that. And we thought, this is going to be a bestseller class because it has a lot of values and it's very cheap and stuff like that. But after a month or two, it became our lowest rated class. So typically on average, our class is rated at about 4.85 out of 5. But this one is rated just below 4.7 or something like that. And we were wondering, like, how is this possible? Like, how can this class that seems to, on our side, very good valued, have such bad ratings in comparison to our other classes? And then we looked into the review system, then we studied, and then we did a couple of user interviews and stuff like that. And we found out that, yes, the class is $5 Singaporean, but in order for them to access that class, they would need to invest in data. And they would spend like maybe $10 to $20 of data in order to access that class. Then for us, it makes sense. Okay. So this price point doesn't make sense anymore because all over Indonesia, not everybody have access to Wi-Fi. And so actually accessing classes can be expensive. And from that point, we realized that, okay, so actually this is an insight that we wouldn't have otherwise found out if this didn't happen. And so I think those are some of the things that came up throughout this time. And it really allowed us to understand like people's problem a little bit more. Because I think it's easy for us to assume, right? Like, okay, I'm sure they will have internet, or I'm sure this would be good value. But after further inspections and after looking at the actual like data points and things like that, we realized that it tells a little bit more story than we had otherwise envisioned. Yeah.
So when you say they need to invest into data, you actually mean like a 4G or internet access. That's what
Correct.
you mean.
Internet access. Yes, that is what I meant.
So just to access a $5 course, you need to invest $20 just to get data access, and that actually skews the real price of the platform. That's very interesting. You also mentioned something very interesting in terms of data capturing, of which I'm quite a bit of a data junkie myself. That you notice that if the users don't log in within 4 days after their first login on the same course, they are most likely never going to finish the course. These are all something very interesting insights, Stephanie, I have to say. We kind of call it the aha moment for digital platforms. That tipping point moment where you know the user is actually going to stick and become an active user. Interesting stuff. Oh, sorry, Michelle, you want to say something?
I wanted to, there's a point about contracts and also COVID. The resilience in COVID sometimes is when in your darkest moments, there are like spots of light. So I was in a bit more fortunate situation in that we had like long-term contracts with corporate clients to be able to, roll through like 4-year contracts and 1-year contracts and 2-year contracts. They didn't cancel. They said, we will resume when the economy is open. So every time it's like, when is it going to open? So you have business, but you have no revenue.
So they didn't cancel, they paused.
Yeah, they paused, and you don't know how long that pause will be. And this is actually, I think, what is many businesses are lamenting. Because you have you're still motivated to keep going. You can see that there is business. What you are doing is worth something. They want to keep your contract. They actually told us, one of the board members told us, we actually looked at the projects, we canceled many of them, but we decided that yours was the one we will keep. So we were like happy. but you can only start when it is.
When the government says so.
Yeah, and I think that is that, like, how are we then, it really forces us to then find the different routes to just sort of hang on, to be able to innovate and sort of stay the course and sort of live to fight another day. And I think that is where it really tests our resilience, really tests the ability to just say, hang on, hang on.
Well, Michelle has done a great job helping me to round up this segment because, and you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned resilience, because that is really the key value that we have here. And the very fact that the four of you are still around, and the pandemic has been around for like 1.5, almost 2 years now, the fact that your businesses are still around, operating, and in some cases even scaling up, means that you guys have found ways to actually hang on, to be resilient, but more importantly, not just hanging on, but creating more value. Whether is it, going straight into the houses in Michelle's case, I'm So In's case, taking things online in Stephanie and my Source case, and collecting more data actually, or actually providing more end-to-end solutions for micro SMEs, such as microfinancing in Ecodo and Laras's case. Or even in Stephen's case, which I think is absolutely beautiful, where they actually get the beneficiaries now to bless other beneficiaries, getting the disabled to make food, prepare food for the other needy and the disabled people. I think it's absolutely crazy, right? It's absolutely amazing. And in that whole process, you guys rediscover your value, again, something that's very common, and figure out how to scale it even further, and helping the business to sustain at the same time. So I have to say, amazing, inspiring stories from all four of you. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. Now we are going to move into the next segment, where we will actually be hearing from our audience. I'm sure they have a lot of burning questions right now that they cannot wait to direct at you guys. So if we can have just the Mentimeter being flashed out right now, we are now going into a segment where we will get you to share your questions. And this is we will have this for about maybe 20 minutes of open Q&A, and we will be flashing the questions in order of the highest vote. So if you like So you in the audience, you can either type a question or you may upvote a question, because we don't have a lot of time. So we will just go with the questions with the most vote. And I understand that we already have the first one up, one of the highest voted questions. How did you decide to be a social entrepreneur instead of just being a regular entrepreneur? Is it hard to focus on the social side? As usual, in this case, I'll let whoever wants to jump in, you feel ready to take on this question, to just jump straight in. Over to all four of you.
Ladies first.
All right, we have 3 ladies. Who would like to go first?
Okay. I'm on the spot, so I'll bring the oldest lady as well. Yeah. I read about social entrepreneurship when I was actually given the opportunity to chair the committee for corporate social responsibility in my organization, which had about, 2,000, 3,000 people. And it was an idea that really resonated with me, because I believe in empowerment and not so much entitlement. So, and also I believe that there is a place for charity, but there is a place about giving jobs to people, creating enterprise that could actually create jobs, which would be far more meaningful and dignified in terms of the giving. So that's why I chose to be a social entrepreneur. But 8 years ago, I remember when they started it, many people, and still now, what is a social enterprise? And it was like, yeah, she's just a businesswoman. We are volunteers. We do it for free. They charge. You get all kinds of brickbats. But I still believe to this day, we finding that holy grail, combining, actually, it's like combining your left brain and your right brain, right? Why would you say that your right brain is better or your left brain is better? It's like you have one brain too. Humanity lives for both businesses to create jobs for people. And so the social is actually one. And if you can think in one, why is it harder? because we chose to ignore one part. If we have embraced the whole of humanity, then social enterprise is very natural way of working.
Interesting. Well, I have some comments to that, but let's hear from the rest of our entrepreneurs here.
I think for me, I'll just answer the last part, which is it hard to focus on the social side? Actually, I think for a lot of us, it's harder to focus on the business side. And the reason is because the social side is very, whenever, for instance, like whenever I see kids and then they tell me like, I didn't think I could do this before. And then now I have all of these dreams and all of these things that I want to achieve. It's like, it makes everything worth it. But sometimes when you're looking at the like financial statements and things like that, you're like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. So I think for me, the social side is, I think, what kept me as an entrepreneur and what helped me be where I am today. And actually it makes things a lot easier, not harder.
Wow. Laras, what about you?
I do agree with Stephanie. I mean, like, when becoming social entrepreneur, it makes me happier than before, because before EcoDo, I already start to, being a trader of apparel, website, IT services, and I also have experience working in IT companies. But back to 2015, when the internet is booming in Indonesia, I start to imagine myself as the entrepreneur. But if I just take it as in the conventional side, I don't know that it will be impact for like society or not. That's why when we built EcoDo, I always say this to my team, that we are the co-worker of impact. When you are here with us, every little things that you do, somehow it will help like millions families out there who struggle to selling goods and services just from their house. And it brings more values for me and my team member, and it become easier for me to envision this value. And of course, as social enterprise, we always saying this to my team as well, that we need to make this equal from the right side, the business side, and then the life side for the social mission. In the goals that we need to delivering more impact to the world, we need to make this business sustain by captivating the target, the North Star metric, but we need to having fun doing it, because what we are doing, it will be making impact to the society. So yeah, I believe that it become easier for us to become social entrepreneur, because we are really want to help others.
Got it. All right, gentlemen, the three ladies have spoken, so it's over to you.
Well, it was a natural transgression for me. I was a former entrepreneur and then became a community worker and then activist, and as I was finding ways to earn our own revenue, so that's where I become an entrepreneur, and only knew that the term social entrepreneur when I started. Social entrepreneurship was still very new in Malaysia, and that was in 2012. So it was a natural transgression for me, but of course it's even more rewarding now. But at the same time, it's even more challenging as well, because you need to balance. I've often shared with the younger generation who wanted to become a social entrepreneur. You need to swing. You need to swing from Mother Teresa to Jack Ma sometimes within a minute.
Within the same day.
If you don't end up in Malaysia, we call it Tanjung Rambutan. I don't know what they have in Singapore, Indonesia. That means you are yeah, you are resilient. You can continue. Yeah. So it's really that mood swing you have to manage. Yeah.
Just for context, Tanjong Rambutan is the equivalent of Woodbridge in Singapore,
Yeah.
which is the mental hospital. I don't know why is it over in Indonesia, but basically, yeah, you do feel like a bit of a schizophrenic, right? One moment you are Jack Ma, another moment you are
And get
Mother
scolded for
Teresa.
being both.
Yeah, and then sometimes some people come to you and say you are too Jack Ma today, tomorrow you are too Mother Teresa, and you wonder what you should be. So maybe I can chip in a little bit here, coming from a regular entrepreneur background. I often look at these guys and I'm like, how on earth do you do this, right? I mean, a single bottom line business is bad enough. Now you want to do a double or a triple bottom line business. I think it all comes back, if you have heard their stories, it all comes back to what is your starting point. If your starting point is more from the impact side, you will find that actually the impact side of things is not crazy. I mean, it's the business side that's very painful, right? If you started out more from the business side, and then you say, now I want to do more social, you will find that the social side is a lot more challenging. If you started out wanting to do both, and you're very clear, then it's just the same, right? It's just like, how do you describe to a color blind person what it means to see color, and vice versa. It's just that the way you see the world from the first day is already very different. So this is the kind of story I hear as a common thread throughout all our 4 entrepreneur stories. Yeah. So
Because
starting
we talk
point,
about values, isn't it?
exactly, right? If it's values driven, purpose driven, impact driven, you will look at your business very differently. So speaking of that, I think we have the next question. This one I like. Could you share what running your social enterprise have taught you about leadership? Okay, maybe this time around I'll have the gentleman go first. Stevens, what has running your own social enterprise taught you about leadership? Stevens, are you there?
Me?
Yes.
I can't seem to find a word, but I think the nearest word that I would like to call it, though you may say it's a servant leader, but sometimes I feel more like a slave than a leader.
Why is that so, Stevens?
You just have to answer to your stakeholders even more. You know, you feel so responsible, and sometimes you run into that, like I shared earlier, that swing. You face with different stakeholders, and you have to talk to them about don't look at revenue, let's look at impact. But the question is, without revenue, where's your impact? So then you have to be a slave to revenue. Different stakeholders, again, I'm giving you the revenue, so where's your impact? So in a way, that's why I still stick on to that as a social entrepreneur, the biggest impact you can make is one day when the business model that you are running is a business. It's not a business. Don't use social needs as an excuse of your business. If you want to be a business, be a business. Compete with the best in the market. And you don't have to worry about your stakeholders. So, but that's what I have to share.
I see. So what I'm hearing is that stakeholder management is probably one of the biggest lessons you have learned during your journey as a social entrepreneur, because there will always be the stakeholders who say that business is doing fine, where's the impact? Or the other guy will say the impact is doing fine, where's the business, right? So it's always a very delicate balance that you have to do. And it seems like, well, you have survived okay so far. And I believe that you have learned quite a bit in this aspect.
Yeah. that's very close to Tanjung Rambutan already.
Okay, hang in there, hang in there. I think we have other people who needs to go in first. So Stevens, we still need you around. Stephanie, what about you? How has being a social entrepreneur taught you or helped you progress as a leader?
Okay, so in order to answer the question, I will tell you if I was an animal, what kind of animal would I be? And the kind of animal and the kind of animal that I would want to be is to be a bird. And the reason is because if you see birds migrating from one place to another, you will be able to see them in a formation. And one of the birds would be at the very top, trying to find a direction, and also bearing the wind and making sure that the people at the back doesn't feel that wind. But once they got tired, they would move back and another person would step up. And they would do that over and over and over again. And I think what being a social entrepreneur taught me about being a leader is that first and foremost, you don't have to do everything yourself. I thought this was something that was very hard for me in the beginning, where I thought, like, because I'm the leader, I have to know all the answers. Or because I'm the leader, I have to, like carry all this burden. But actually, I think one of the best parts about being, or one of the best part about learning what it means to be a leader, as I'm running this company, is to, depend also on other people and know that you have your team to be able to support you as well. And I think if I ever did, or if my EduSolve ever did anything great, it would definitely be because of all of the people and all of the team members' efforts and not just my own. And I think another thing that is a little bit like not related, it's also sometimes you want to do things fast and you want to do things quickly, but sometimes that also causes a lot of things that comes up wrongly. And taking the time to listen, be it like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes, it will save you so much time down the line. And so sometimes we don't have to make decisions right now and right in this moment. We can also take our time and really listen to what the other people have to say as well. And I think those are the two things that I learned the most throughout this experience.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So as a leader, sometimes you have to realize that you cannot take on everything yourself. And there's a time whereby you have to fall back and let someone else lead the pack, even just for a brief moment in time. And also knowing that not all decisions have to be made in a rush. There's always time pressure, of course, in a small company, in a startup, but there's a time and place also to reflect and to say, let's just hold back. We can make a decision slightly later than making a wrong decision. Thanks for sharing, Stephanie. Now, what about you, Laras?
Well, for me, this journey really teach me a lot and really changing myself. Previously, I said that as a leader, I often tell our team that we are a co-worker of impact. And by doing that, I mean, like for myself, I need to give more impact to our team, not only just become the boss who assign this and that, but understand what kind of values that I need to resonate it to my team, to really fire up our team and understand what hassles they face, how to encourage them to become more creative. And then I also very so struggle to changing myself in our early days from very straightforward, pointing out this and that. I try to change to be more open to our team members. So I open the room for my team member to have opportunity to have a voice of decision making, problem solving, because they are the persons who in charge meeting with the clients, with the micro SMEs, and often I also taking time because of this pandemic. I take time to meeting directly with our clients, to the micro SMEs, and reframe the values. And often that because of this pandemic as well, I often have time to making sure our team really understand the why we are here, which compass we are going to, because sometimes our team still millennials, and we have creativity, innovation to execute. But of course, the question always, will it be benefit for our beneficiaries? If it's not, then why we are doing that? And I also agree with Stephanie that because we are as a bird, we need to, as a great leader, we need to create more leaders. And it's the key if we would like to make our impact sustain in a long game, like maybe 100 years onwards. So yeah, we really need to giving trust to our team to become the next leader. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, so I'm hearing a few things here. Of course, being the first one is not having to always to be the smartest person in the room, right? As a leader, sometimes one of our job is to develop other leaders. We must trust that these people can rise up to the job eventually. We must invest time to train them up. And sometimes there's a time and place for us as leaders to take a step back and let our younger generation take over or to rise up. And also what I'm hearing is really to question, as an entrepreneur, sometimes to question your purpose and making sure that it's consistent. What you say is indeed what we do. So very powerful messages that I'm hearing here. Michelle, over to you. How has being a social entrepreneur taught you to be a better leader?
I have had about 30 over years of corporate experience and leading large teams, diverse teams. I have never been a sort of armchair general. I've always been someone who's sort of like really very actively involved with my team. But even then, as a social entrepreneur, it is really like you really miss the structure, the backup, the resources. You don't, you ask for a budget and then you get it approved and you go do it. This one is like you have to make money along the way and you have to think about like 100 other things. And then because you obviously see a gap in the market, which means that no one else has gone there, you are trying to test out your own vision and idea. So it's kind of like they say, trying to juggle while you're riding a bicycle and doing so many things at the same time. What social entrepreneurship has really taught me is that you really have to be prepared as a leader to go into the brave new world. And that at the end of the day, for me at least, it was actually many times just having faith and divine intervention. Because at some point, you really don't have the answers. Your troops are asking for clarity and you don't have it yourself. I don't. Because I'm like, wow, pandemic, it's like we are equally lost, but we cannot also give up. So the leadership experience has taught me to be like, at the end of the day, we have to think about ourselves, who's guiding us, and then move forward and get there someday. So that was my biggest lesson. It's a life lesson as well. I
see. Well, someone once told me that faith is spelled R-I-S-K. And really leadership a lot of times is really just having the courage to go into the unknown, right? Who knows? I mean, who is to predict which area will be the next billion-dollar, trillion-dollar industry? Nobody really knows. But it takes a leader to have the courage to explore.
Maybe it's the analogy I always feel like, Stephanie talked about birds. I always think about like leaping off and flying. To fly, you actually have to get both feet off the ground,
right?
Which means that at some point, you don't know whether you're going to flap and boom, or you are going to fly. And you just have to take that leap of faith and go.
I see. Seems like birds are our favorite creatures for this session today. So we have newfound appreciations for birds today. Great. There's so many great questions on the list, and I do regret that we are running out of time. But maybe I'll just do one last one. I'll try to combine a few together. What is the most important thing you guys would like to say to the audience who are inspired to help or to collaborate with you? Anyone can go first.
Ladies first. Yeah.
Stevens and his chivalry. Stephanie, why don't we have you go first? How can people help or collaborate with MyEduSolve?
I think the best collaborations that we've ever had is when we both know what we want from the partnership. In the sense that, and we both believe in the mission or the vision that we want to achieve through this collaboration. And I don't necessarily know what kind of collaborations or how can we collaborate in particular, but if education is something that is important to you or digital literacy is something that's important to you, then I'm sure we can think of something to work together on and create something that will help even more people.
Okay, right. What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, one of the things that we really want to do in this next phase, bringing it to families and all, is really to, we need someone who would come in and actively participate in the business, actually. Someone, some people who would have digital background, business background, because I see that the vision would be that we have so many families, so many clients now that across Asia that we are serving. And so we have access to all this data. And what we are doing is quite new. So once we have people who would be able to help us digitize and capture this data, we would actually be very rich ground for AI. And we've actually explored that and been told like we are really sitting on a kind of like a real, well, innovative space, you know, because we've been doing it for 8 years and we could reach now to even more people. So I'm really, really looking for some people who have that digital background, because I can't do everything. And I know the content, the experience and all those we have. Some people, who would really help us to build those systems, the digitization, to be able to capture the experiences, the music and all that, and then turn it into AI. So that I think would be very exciting for I'm Soul Inc. and making a real impact, because music in a way is so powerful, but we're doing it in a very unconventional way, using unconventional means. And so that is truly a brave new world out there. So inviting people who would like to fly and take the risk at some point with us.
Okay. What about you, Laras?
So because of the lockdown, suddenly EcoDo is kind of hard to aggressively onboarding new micro SMEs to join us. And there are so many inquiries from big companies that still didn't match with the micro SMEs because our current micro SME is somehow full of capacity. That's why if the audience maybe have access to the communities of micro SMEs in Indonesia, we are really open to collaborate and discuss further to help micro SMEs out there to go digital through ecodo.com. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least, Steven.
Well, we need investments to help us rebuild, relaunch, and reopen our dialogue discovery center to even include more immersive, interactive dialogue experience that would not only involve training even more blind, but also more deaf, lame, autistic, and even senior citizens. If we are successful in building that, we will be the third in the world after Hamburg and Tokyo. The numbers of disabled people is increased over the years, and we hope through this new discovery center, as we engage even more of them through this discovery tours, we are sure that the public will be able to discover empathy, and perhaps even some resilient traits that they themselves don't think they have. So it's really a center that can generate hope, build hope, which is so needed nowadays, and impact the many lives, not just your life, but the life of a person with disability. Yeah, that's what we need.
That's a beautiful end actually to our session, invest in hope. So with that, we want to thank our panelists for today. Thanks to Michelle, Laras, Stephanie, and Stevens.
Eagles is a very unique platform to bring together people who are like-minded, people with the same intention to transform communities, especially in this Asian region.
The comprehensiveness of the whole leadership topics every time we have an Eagles conference is so wide, There's something for everybody. Because you see leadership not as one entity, but a broad scope of things.
Your conference not only have the wide range of things to learn, knowledge to get, but also very, very meaningful lesson to learn. You always have that simple life person telling us the extraordinary story.
Eagle actually has done a lot in choosing a subject that is relevant to whatever current situation. And also the group of speakers that you managed to invite, which is so wonderful and so well known in the field.
To grow is by attending ELC, great array of speakers, multidisciplinary, and then very candid, honest. And the interactive session brought out the details. The interactive session, I think, is very well curated, that you brought out the essence of each person.
Eagle Conference have impacted me a lot. It's taught me that I can lead even with all my limitations. Eagles are not put together, all these conferences, and put together, more importantly, the assembly of people who are willing to share their lives and give their advice, all their wisdom.
Eagles has made me think a lot, made me reflect on all the things that I have done, bring it closer to a God-led meaning to what I've been doing at a corporate level. I mean, we all talk about leadership, we all talk about how good you are, but how does all this, where does God comes into all this?
Eagles as an organization shows that whatever principles that we learn inside the classroom, we see it applied outside. And that is really what makes it valuable.